All right, welcome. Today, we are going to demystify a really powerful feature in Tkinter for handling data inside your graphical interfaces. Honestly, once you get this, it's going to fundamentally change how you build your apps.
So here's the plan. We'll start with a problem that every single GUI developer runs into. Then we'll introduce Tkinter's really slick solution. We'll go over the essential tools you'll need, show you how to use them, and then wrap up with a more advanced technique for making your interfaces feel incredibly responsive.
Okay, so let's start with that fundamental challenge. How data flows, or maybe more accurately, how it doesn't flow easily at first.
You've done the work, right? You've built this beautiful user interface. You've got buttons, you've got entry fields, checkboxes. It looks great. But now what? How do you actually get your Python code to know what the user is typing? How does that data get from the screen into your program?
Well, your first instinct is probably to just use the get method right on the widget itself, like an entry box. And hey, that works. But here's the catch. It only gives you a snapshot. It's the data at that exact moment you ask for it. A second later, your UI and your code are totally disconnected again. But thankfully, Tkinter offers a much more elegant solution. It lets us move away from these static data grabs and create a truly dynamic connection. And the way it does this is with something called control variables. These are special objects that create a live two-way link between what's happening on the screen and a variable living in your program's memory.
This connection is persistent, it's always on, so if the user types something into a text box, the variable updates instantly. And this is the cool part, if your code changes the variable, the UI updates to match. Your program always knows the current state automatically.
Now, Tkinter is smart about this. It doesn't just give you one generic tool. It provides specialized control variables for pretty much any kind of data you'll need to handle. You're going to be using these four all the time. You've got StringVar for any kind of text, IntVar for whole numbers, DoubleVar for floating point numbers, numbers with decimals, and BooleanVar for true-false states, which is absolutely perfect for things like checkboxes. Okay, so let's look at the two most fundamental things you'll do with these variables: reading data from them and writing data to them. First things first, you have to establish that connection. It's super easy. You create an instance of the control variable you need, like a string variable, then you just link it up to your widget using the text variable option. That's it, they're connected.
Now, what if you want your code to change what's on the screen? Simple. You use the set method, but you use it on the variable, not the widget. This lets your program programmatically change the content of that linked widget whenever you want.
And here's the result. The moment your code calls variable.set, boom, the user interface updates instantly. You don't have to call any extra functions or manually refresh anything. It just works.
And to get the data that the user entered, you just do the reverse. You use the get method, again on the variable. This will always pull the most current, synchronized value right from the UI.
This slide really brings it all home. It's a total shift in thinking. You're moving away from asking the widget for a static one-time snapshot that could be outdated a millisecond later, and you're moving toward this dynamic, synchronized link where the variable is always the single source of truth. Okay, this is all great, but what if you want your program to react instantly to what the user is doing? I'm talking about running code the moment they type or delete a single character. Well, for that, there's the advanced trace variable method. This lets you trace or watch a variable, and then execute some code whenever a specific action happens to it. And the process is actually pretty simple. First, you just define a regular Python function. This is what we call a callback, because the variable is going to call back to this function when it changes. Then you just tell the control variable to trace itself. That little W there just means write, so you're telling it to notify you whenever the variable is written to. And just like that, your UI becomes truly reactive. And this technique is the magic behind so many sophisticated features we take for granted. Things like live input validation that tells you your password is weak as you're typing it, or search fields that offer suggestions with every single keystroke. So mastering these control variables is a huge leap. It lets you go from building static forms to creating dynamic, responsive applications. Your code becomes cleaner, more robust, and way more intuitive. So the real question is, with this new power, what are you going to build?